Hello, everybody. My name is James Rush, and I am here to welcome Wutthiphong. Hi, from Thailand, TESOL, and it's entirely your show, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my session. And you come to my talk today, you are not going to listen to an academic talk, but you will also get a bonus to get a virtual tour to Thailand as well. Okay, I hope. My study was about linguistic challenges of hosts for visitors in Thailand, and I used the results of my study to be input for my session design and implementation. I am Wutthiphong Laoriandee. I am a representative of Thailand TESOL, and I also teach at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand. So let's see. Oops. Okay, so when we talk about tour guides, we all know that they are key people in the tourism industry, right? And I look at tour guides that they have two roles, okay? The micro level means when they receive visitors from another country, they need to ensure the safety and they need to create quality of tourist experience. So that's personal level. But at the bigger level, micro level, tour guides also work as public relations. They represent the country, right? Maybe they kind of like ambassador to their own country. So you can see that tour guides are key people in the tourism industry. And the English competency is quite important in order to achieve these two roles. So that's why I was interested in the linguistic challenges that tour guides might have when they give a tour. There have been a couple of studies in my context in Thailand, which I did 2014, found that tour guides for speaking, they had technical terms problem, correct idiom use and grammar. For listening, they got problems on accents, vocabulary, and cross-cultural knowledge. Another study just last year found tourist accents, speech rate, and unfamiliar vocab problematic at moderate level. Because this study, they studied people in different positions in the tourism industry, and they found that tour guides, that level of language competency was quite good, but they still had problems, okay? And you can see that these two studies had some common findings, right? You can see vocabulary, okay, and accents, right, that they found as problems in these two studies. So for my study, I wanted to go a little bit beyond that. So I investigated types of place and nationalities of friends and customers that my students at my university and Thai tour guides most familiar with, okay? And I also, of course, investigated linguistic challenges of them when hosting foreign visitors. And sorry. Ooh. Okay, I pressed it wrong. Let me stop share first, and then I'll share the screen again. Okay, so the third research question was how will those linguistic challenges and EIL tenets, which was the theoretical framework for my study, could be incorporated into a session that I designed and implemented, okay? So for the theoretical framework that I use EIL, and for my study, it's a paradigm. It's not a variety of English, okay? So EIL as a paradigm recognizes the language, the functions of it, okay? That people who come from different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and people who do not really use the same mother tongues use for their communication. And when we teach EIL, we should consider 4 things, okay? And I use these things in my study. The first thing is we aim for mutual intelligibility when we teach EIL. So when we teach our students, we might want to differentiate between problems that might create intelligibility or impede intelligibility from some problems that do not really impede intelligibility, but might create some negative attitudes in the users. For example, your student says, she know, this does not impede intelligibility, right? But this might create some negative attitudes on the speaker, on your student, right? So that's one thing we might need to consider. The second thing is we should promote strategies for communication when we teach our students in an EIL classroom. So in terms of speakers, we might encourage them to use circumlocution, use of all-purpose words like the word get, verb get, or something, this thing, okay? Literal translation, in order to get that message across, right? They might just simply translate directly and use of non-linguistic means, of course. For example, like using a map when you provide directions. Communication is two-way, right? We might want to encourage the listeners, okay, to help with the communication as well, lexical suggestion or lexical correction when the speaker use words that might not be correct, something like that, okay? The third consideration is about culture. So in the literature on EIL, we see that there are a lot of people who talk about culture, right? For my study, I look into Hino, who saw importance of critical understanding of their own culture and how to explain it to outsiders. And this thing is quite corresponding to the role of visitor host, right, that we're talking about. And McKay kind of like goes a little bit beyond that, okay? She supported the development of learners' sphere of interculturality. So what does it mean? Sphere of interculturality means you encourage your students to talk about your own culture in relation to other people's culture. So as a tour guide, you, of course, you talk a lot about your own country, about the place in your own country, but you might want to engage the listeners as well, right? The visitors. Maybe you might want to find some link, maybe from the history of your the places that you giving the commentary to, some link to their culture, for example, okay? And the last consideration is awareness, exposure, and respect, right? For other varieties of English. And I like one study by Evans, Valerio, and Loring, 2014. They taught global English to mostly American students in the US, I think, California. Yes. And they surveyed the attitudes of their students before that global English class and after the global English class. And they found that after the global English class, students kind of like had more positive attitude toward other varieties of English because during the course, they exposed their students to different varieties of English, and they even systematically analyzed the language of those speakers. Okay, so that's why the students had some kind of like more open-minded, okay, open-mindedness toward the end of the course. For my study, I divided it into 2 phases. The first phase was to survey and interview experience and their language challenges, okay, when they gave a tour to visitors. And I used the results of the first phase to design and implement a session, extracurricular activity session. And for the first phase, my subjects were 183 people, 2 groups, students and tour guides. And I used a questionnaire, okay, asking about nationalities of their friends and customers, types of places that they took their friends and customers to, and of course, linguistic challenges that they had while they were taking those people to places. And I also use interviews, okay, for data triangulation as well. For data analysis, I did frequency count for parts 1 and 2 of the questionnaire. And for part 3, the linguistic challenges, I coded the problems that they wrote on the survey. Okay, so it's not predetermined Likert scale items, just unlike the previous studies that I mentioned before. Okay, so by doing this, I hope that I would get problems that I did not really anticipate, for example. Okay, and interviews, I transcribe them and I use them for data triangulation. Let's take a look at the results. For the first research question, nationalities. This is the top 10 of the nationalities of friends and customers of tour guides and students of my subjects. You can see that some countries are in purple, right? Because these 6 countries in purple, they are also the countries that Thailand received the most, okay, in terms of the number of tourists of the whole country. Here you can see that you don't really use the general statistics of the number of tourists to Thailand to train your students. When you collect data, demographic group, you can see that they might change, right? They might not really like 100% overlap, okay? So I got clearly demographic group of EIL interlocutors of the research population. And you can see that among the 10 countries, only 3 are from ENL countries. So ENL speakers use English with non-native speakers more, okay? The results on places that they took their friends and their customers to, you can see from the table, top 10 places. Places for culture, history, and art were most popular, like Buddhist temples, right? Number 1, okay, 119 counts, palaces, historical places, or even museums, right? Okay, and followed by places for local ways of life, like floating markets, number 3, 90 counts, local communities, number 5, right? But nature, you can see, not really popular here, okay? Number 8 and 9, sea and islands, even though it's kind of like not what I expected, and you guys as well, right? Because people come to Thailand to like enjoy the sea, okay, or islands. Student 2 provided some insight in her interview. She said that she loved nature, of course, and she loved islands and sea, but she went to these places with her family only, okay? And when you go to these places, it requires multiple days, right? And when you receive foreign friends, you might not have enough time, or you might not be as close as your family. So that's why they just took their foreign friends to closer places like temples or floating markets, for example, okay? For research question 2, linguistic challenges, I found 7 challenges altogether. And you can see that the first 2 were kind of like leading a lot when compared with the rest, the other 5, vocabulary and accent, right? So in general, the results on linguistic challenges corresponded to those of the previous studies. So they had problems with vocab and accent, okay, for tour guides. And the results here from the table, you can see, reassure the importance of intelligibility over accuracy, right? Because grammar here, only one mentioned, right? One person mentioned that is about accuracy, right? But accent, for example, right, 33 counts. So my subjects kind of like put emphasis on intelligibility a lot, not really accuracy when they gave a tour to their friends or customers. So let's take a closer look at the top two problems, vocab and accent. For vocabulary, I found that they did not really have problems with everyday English words. They had problems with specialized words and Thai culture specific words, okay? And also architectural terms. For example, when they took their friends to a temple, they could not really talk about different parts of the roof of that temple, for example. And tour guide to provided more information on vocabulary problem. He said that he learned the word stupa from his training, tour guide training course, and he used it when he gave a tour to his clients, but his clients did not really understand the word stupa. Okay, so he ended up telling them the significance of stupa. Actually, it's in the picture here. So a stupa is a JD, like a structure that people put Buddha relics or maybe king relics at the base, and we worship them, okay? So here it implies that we might not just simply teach vocabulary, culture specific words like stupa. This stupa means this in Thai, or Garuda means this in Thai, something like that. Cannot do that, right? Because when they use it, clients do not really understand. So communicative strategies might be a good choice when we teach these words in an EIL classroom. For accent, for people mention British accent as problematic to them, and tour guide one gave more insight on this problem. For her, Indians are fast and hard to get, okay? So here you can see that speech rate coupled with accent can impede intelligibility as well. When the clients speak fast, right, it might be hard for them to understand. And since British and Indian were also in top 10 of the nationalities, the list that I showed you, right? So maybe we could target these two accents, right, in our class, because they're familiar with these people, but they still have problem with that accent, right? So British and Indian, maybe, okay, target that. For phase two, okay, I designed one session. Is a 2-hour extracurricular session that I implemented with 26 students, Chulalongkorn University student, okay? And the content of that session was about Thai history, because we learned that the subjects were familiar with places related to art, history, a lot, right? So that's why I think this content might be relevant, Thai history. And the session included 3 activities: trivia quiz, they answered 10 questions as a group, Thai culture specific words, my bad for the spelling, Thai culture specific words, explanation. So they work in pairs and they take turns describing those words. So I have more details later. And the last activity was presentation on historical attractions. It's a group work. So for this session, it addressed the problem of Thai culture specific words, because we know that they had problems with vocabulary, right? Especially the special terms. And I incorporated circumlocution as communication strategy when I taught, because previous studies found that circumlocution was the most frequently used strategy when people talk about culture specific words, or they use a lot by tour guides, according to Wong Sawang and Pernomo, okay? And I promoted the students' fear of interculturality. You remember that, right? McKay mentioned that when you talk about your culture, you might want to link or engage the talk, link it to the culture of the listeners as well. Okay, I have more details on that. So this is a sample slides. This is a sample slide of my second activity, the pair work. They took turns describing Thai culture specific words, okay? Using the techniques I taught. So these are the circumlocution techniques that I taught to them, okay? Compare the culture-specific notion with what is widely known, okay? The first one, you can see the word here, taco. We know Mexican taco, right? Okay, the wrap, crispy wrap. So we might use this word to describe a local Thai snack as well, because the texture and the shape was similar. Okay, so that's one strategy you could use. And second strategy was describe the shape of it, tells visitors what it represents and symbolizes, was the third one. Since tour guides, they should tell stories, right? And visitors like to listen to legends or stories from tour guides. So I trained them this strategy as well. And the last one was tell visitors where they are commonly found. By telling them this is a way to promote the attractions in maybe in other provinces as well. So one example was one participant talk about Thai boxing or Muay Thai, right? So he used strategy number 1 and number 4. Okay, he described it as Thai martial arts in which fighters can use elbows and knees, right, to strike. So he used the word martial arts, right? It's a common word, and then you put Thai, and you tell them how it's different from other martial arts by you can use elbows and knees to strike. Okay, and also he talked about where people could watch Thai boxing in Bangkok, right? That's strategy number 4, okay? This is a sample slide from activity number 3 here, okay? Group presentation on historical attractions, okay? 5 minutes, okay. So here, they had to decide who the audience would be, okay? So some of them chose art students from Japan, and they searched information on a given historical place. And when they presented on that place, they had to have one part that link the place to the interest of the audience, okay? Now, for example, by doing this is the focus on the sphere of interculturality. I have one example here. So one group of students got the one on the left-hand side is the giant swing in Bangkok, Thailand, and they compare it with a Torii gate, okay, in terms of color, size, and function, because they picked the audience as art students from Japan. So you can see, right, they try to link the giant swing to what the audience knew about, okay, similar things. Yeah. Okay, so in conclusion, you can see that non-predetermined questionnaire items reveal similar results of previous studies, vocab and accents, right? Similar results. And places for arts, history, and culture, and places for local ways of life were most familiar to the subjects. And the session evaluation was quite good, 4.7, 4.9, 4.6. So that means we could include those elements, EIL and the results in the session. And we still have one problem that we did not address, the accent, right? Maybe accent of British and Indian people through the content of Thai ways of life, okay, could be a good choice. So that's pretty much about my study. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Do we have time for
Excellent.
Q&A?
Yeah, we got about 1 minute official, but as I mentioned, I am definitely going to stay around for 3 or 4 minutes afterwards too. Round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ
And yeah, I open the floor for anyone that would like to ask a direct question for Dr. Hai.
I have a question about your your future directions. What do you think a session might look like, specifically for the Indian and British and Indian accents issue?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, So Aya Matsuda mentioned this kind of thing. Maybe you invite those people to the class, right? As a visitor, a guest person, okay, to the class, or you can use YouTube clips to expose them to those accents. You could even um, do a field trip, right? And then you ask them to find maybe one British or one Indian tourist to talk to, something like that, and then take a snapshot. Okay, so because these people, British and Indian, they come to Thailand a lot. I mean, like in the past 2 years, not now. Okay, so we should prepare them for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That sounds so useful and very practical for your participants.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have time, James?
I could keep you here for a long time, and I plan to keep in contact with you for through the week. If you're over in the Discord server, everyone, we can continue the conversation there. My one specific question is, I was in Vietnam for a couple years, and they were had a specific English program for teaching English teachers to be, and then the other one was heavily focused on the tourism industry for English speaking, but also for Chinese speaking. So my question is, is there potential correlation with Chinese translators there in Thailand and the amount of Chinese tourism that is coming into Thailand?
Your question again, sorry, I did not get that.
I wonder if there's a correlation, or there's a way for like the training programs, the students, the kind of students and tour guides that you interviewed and you did this research for, is it similar to finding out about what the Chinese acquisition of Chinese as a second, or Chinese as an international language, and how that might compare and contrast in research and studies?
Oh, I'm not really sure about that. I don't know if I can answer, because English and Chinese, they are two different languages.
Right.
And you can see that my study was very local, right? In terms of the context and the participants. Yeah, so I don't think I can answer your question, sorry.
Yeah, I guess from my experience there with Vietnam and the growth of the economy, the growth of the tourism industry, and the growth of the wealth of China causing that tourism industry to really just bloom, I'm curious as to whether or not the tour guides and the higher education schools and training centers there in Thailand, if they are doing similar kinds of trainings for Chinese as an international language, the way that English as an international language has grown over the last number of years.
Yeah, we also have trainings for Chinese tour guides as well, because a lot, like we receive 20 something million Chinese tourists every year.
Wow.
Not last year, but I mean like until 2019. Yeah. 23, 25 million. Yeah. So we had that kind of course as well. Yeah.
Because then the wonder is, okay, do you just go with English as the international language for those Chinese tourists, or is there some kind of change, or there's another industry that pops up, as far as what Gerd was saying, as far as the future of English as a foreign language? Okay. Does that increase because the amount of globalism and the amount of translation, or does that shift?
I'm not sure that you can say that Chinese is an international language yet, right? Because an international language must be spoken by people from different culture and different first mother tongue, right? But here we use Chinese with people from Taiwan and China mostly, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and when we use that, we might need to consider their culture. Okay, so it's not like a neutral culture, unlike English, right? Yeah. Mhm.
Interesting. Would the Singaporeans and the Malaysians, would they probably be using English
yeah.
more often then?
They use both actually. Yeah.
Great. It is now 4 o'clock. Again, I can stay for a couple more minutes. Fillmore or Marisa, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Hi, I actually want to ask, in the future, I hope this is a continuing study. In the future, would you consider asking the visitors this time? Because I think accent is very central in your study, but it's the accent of the visitors. How about asking the visitor about the accent of the tour guides? Would you consider that in your future study?
Yes, that's a good suggestion. Actually, I interviewed one visitor, but after the interview, because I interviewed only one person, right? So could not be really useful for my study, and it would not make my study solid enough. Yeah, so that's why I did not use the data that I collected from that one visitor. Yeah, he mentioned that taxi drivers and receptionists did not really speak English well. Yeah, but he did not really mention about the accent. It's just that proficiency in general, that quite low, taxi drivers and hotel receptionists. Yes, but that's a good suggestion. Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Dr. Ocampo, did you have a question maybe for Dr. Hai here? Oh, you're muted. You're muted still.
I don't have particular question to Dr. Wutthiphong, but I just want only to congratulate him for that. I learned a lot from your research.
Thank
That
you.
accent is very important in a way.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because as for us, we really cannot speak Thai language, and it's really, really difficult now. So not only you who are, I mean, not only Thai people who are really suffering from from the accent, but even us as a second language or the third language, third learners of different, I mean, uh, learners of the third languages. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. I see.
Good. Well, it is now 4:02, 4:05. I don't know where you're at. It looks like Fillmore is a bit outside, but I encourage you, if it's still daylight, go and enjoy.
Fillmore is maybe he's in where Mayon volcano or where is that? That's your background.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
from Bicol. Yeah, Bicol right
So
now.
I had thought about
I'm
trying to
actually
go.
waiting for your talk.
Yeah. So have a great afternoon, everybody. And again, thank you for attending.
Congratulations.
Oh, Dawn is here
Yes.
too. The
Yeah.
president
Thank
of
you.
Galt. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming, Dawn.
Thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Have a
Take
great
care.
rest of the sessions.
I also have
Congratulations, Hi.
accent.
Hi, congratulations.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Did you want to go back and take another screenshot with the title slide there, Dr. Hai?
It's okay. It's okay, James. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right. Awesome. See you later. Hello, Fillmore. How you doing? Bye.
Yeah.